Welcome back to the deep dive. We have a trivia question for you to kick things off today.
Oh, I'm ready for this. Let's hear it.
All right, picture the landscape of 1985. The American Wrestling Association is drawing major houses. Who was the American professional wrestler operating under the moniker Mr. Electricity who managed to take the World Tag Team Championship off the notoriously protected, incredibly dominant Road Warriors?
You know, trying to envision anyone stepping into the ring and effectively grounding Hawk and Animal during their absolute physical prime it's difficult enough. Taking their belts is another level entirely.
It really is. Now, if you are sitting there pointing at your speakers and shouting William Regal, hold that thought.
Yeah, we need to clear that up right away.
Exactly. We are clearing up a frequent misconception surrounding the source text for today's analysis. The subject of our dive is Stephen Michael Regal, born in Fort Lauderdale in 1951. He is the original Mr. Electricity. We are not discussing the English wrestler who later adopted the William Regal ring name and, found prominence in the late 90s.
Right. And the confusion is totally understandable, considering the legacy that the Regal name eventually carried in the industry. But Stephen Michael Regal's own trajectory, it offers a remarkably unvarnished look at the realities of the business during a really volatile era.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are taking the Wikipedia article on the 1951 Steve Regal and using his career as a lens to examine the transient, often punishing ecosystem of 1970s and 80s professional wrestling.
It's a fascinating ecosystem, too.
Oh, absolutely. You are going to hear the story of a worker who captured championships across multiple promotions, navigated the industry's most significant transitional period, and ultimately made some really profound personal decisions about his place within it.
And understanding his journey, it really requires looking at the mechanics of the territory system he broke into.
Right, because this was way before national television homogenization.
Exactly. The landscape was a patchwork of regional empires. You had the AWA in the Midwest, Pacific Northwest wrestling up in Oregon, Jim Crockett Promotions down south. Sustaining a career meant relentless travel between those borders.
Just constantly on the road.
Constantly. And it also demanded a high level of psychological adaptability. A working style that generated heat in Indianapolis might fall completely flat in Portland.
You had to read the regional crowds.
Yes, you had to read the crowds and adjust your ring psychology accordingly, night after night.
Well, his entry into that specific world began in a uniquely integrated way. His first documented match took place on August 29th, 1975, against Mike Snyder.
Go.
He was breaking in with the Indianapolis-based World Wrestling Association, the WWA, which was under the control of Dick the Bruiser and Wilbur Snyder. And the source material highlights a detail about his personal life that profoundly intersects with his professional start.
Oh, the high school connection.
Yeah. Regal actually met his future wife, Cindy, while they were attending Pike High School. And Cindy just so happened to be Wilbur Snyder's daughter.
Which is wild. Entering the business through the WWA was rugged enough on its own, given Dick the Bruiser's reputation. Marrying into the promoter's family added an entirely different layer of pressure and expectation.
It is the ultimate example of marrying into the family business. The dinner table dynamics alone must have been fascinating.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall for those dinners.
Right, but he clearly didn't rely on the family connection to carry him. He put in the miles, he built his credibility on the road.
He certainly did.
By 1979, he was finding serious traction in the tag team ranks down in the Continental Wrestling Association. He formed a team with Hector Guerrero, and in November of that year, they captured the AWA Southern Tag Team Championship by defeating the Blonde Bombers, Larry Latham, and Wayne Ferris.
Taking the belts off Latham and Ferris, who the audience might recognize better by his later persona, the Honky Tonk Man.
Oh, wow, right.
Yeah, that demonstrates that the CWA bookers trusted Regal to carry the narrative weight of a major title program. He was proving his reliability as an in-ring worker.
And that reliability translates into an intense schedule when he moves to Don Owens' Pacific Northwest wrestling territory by 1981. The workload he shouldered up there is staggering.
PNW is infamous for that.
In July of 1981, Regal and Matt Bourne win the NWA Pacific Northwest Tag Team Championship from Rip Oliver and the Destroyer. Then, right in the middle of trading those tag bets back and forth with teams featuring guys like Buddy Rose and Stan Stasiak, Regal enters a tournament.
A singles tournament.
Yes, on August 15th. for the vacant NWA Pacific Northwest Heavyweight Championship. And he wins it. He is simultaneously carrying the top singles belt and the tag team belts for the entire territory.
Holding dual championships in a promotion like PNW meant you were essentially the structural load-bearing pillar the company's live event loops.
The guy holding the whole thing up.
Exactly. You were working multiple times a night or wrestling hour-long Broadways, constantly defending those titles across the Pacific Northwest circuit. The physical taxation of that schedule inevitably catches up to a worker.
And the source confirms that physical toll. In December of 1981, just months after becoming a double champion, Regal is forced to vacate the heavyweight title due to injury.
Which was so common back then.
The territory system demanded everything, and eventually the body forces a stop. But he recovers, and the subsequent chapter of his career is where his defining persona really takes hold.
What's fascinating here is the evolution of his status when he settles into Vern Gagne's American Wrestling Association. Regal had worked AWA dates on and off since 1976, but his full-time return in the mid-1980s coincided with a substantial promotional push.
This is the era where Mr. Electricity becomes a staple of the Midwest wrestling diet. He enters a protracted, bitter feud with Buck Zumhofe centering around the AWA World Light Heavyweight Championship.
Classic feud.
He drops a match to him at Super Sunday in April 1983, but eventually claims the championship on March 25, 1984. And the booking surrounding Regal hits an absolute fever pitch in the fall of 1985. We have to look at the timeline of a single weekend in September.
The sequencing of events over those 2 days offers a masterclass in 1980s wrestling booking and how to maximize talent visibility.
Okay, so on September 28, 1985, at the Super Clash event, Regal defends his light heavyweight title against Brad Rheingans. He secures the victory via distraction from Jimmy Garvin, leaning heavily into established heel tactics.
Madrid heel work.
Right. But the very next night, September 29th, the narrative shifts gears entirely. Regal and Garvin form an alliance to challenge the Road Warriors for the AWA World Tag Team Championship.
The Road Warriors.
And with an assist from Michael Hayes interfering on their behalf, Regal and Garvin win the belts.
Consider the internal logic required to make that title change work. Hawk and Animal were a generational phenomenon, booked as nearly indestructible forces of nature. Transitioning the belts away from them required outside interference and the combined heat of the fabulous Freebirds.
It took a village to beat them.
It really did. Placing the light heavyweight champion into that volatile mix and having him emerge with the tag titles elevated Regal's perceived stock within the AWA instantly.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting regarding his cultural footprint. Because of his visibility carrying both the light heavyweight and tag team championships during this hot period for the AWA, Regal was selected for the AWA Remco action figure line.
Securing an action figure in the mid-1980s was a definitive metric of mainstream penetration.
Oh, huge.
Before the video game market dominated childhood entertainment, having your likeness cast in plastic meant you had crossed over from being a regional arena attraction to a tangible fixture in living rooms nationwide.
He was a recognized commodity in the States, definitely, but his in-ring acumen was also being utilized overseas. The source points out his involvement with All Japan Pro Wrestling during this era.
The Japanese tours are a critical piece of his resume. Working for AJPW in 1982 and 1985 required adapting to strong style.
Which is very different.
Very. It prioritized stiff, highly physical striking and rigorous grappling techniques that differed sharply from the standard American territory main event style.
And he wasn't just working the undercard over there. During the Summer Action Series and the Heatwave Tours, Regal is positioned alongside massive, notoriously tough workers like Harley Race, Stan Hansen, and the Destroyer.
Legend.
They are locked in a feud with the Ishin Gundan faction, taking on Riki Choshu and Killer Khan. Sharing the ring with Hansen and Choshu means your fundamental mechanics have to be flawless.
It serves as peer validation. Promotions do not place a 220-pound American in multi-man tags with their top domestic draws and most protected foreign talent unless that worker's exceptionally reliable at making the offense look credible. He clearly possessed that elite technical foundation.
He brings that foundation back to the States and transitions into Jim Crockett Promotions in 1986. JCP was the dominant force in the National Wrestling Alliance at the time, laying the groundwork for what would become WCW.
And he hits the ground running.
He really does. He makes an immediate impact in their junior heavyweight division. On August 2, 1986, he captures the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship from Denny Brown.
Capturing a secondary title in JCP during that specific year meant navigating a highly competitive locker room filled with some of the best in-ring performers of the decade. While the reign was brief, he dropped it back to brown roughly a month later. It added another significant credential to his name.
The JCP run concludes with a poetic bit of matchmaking. His final bout for the promotion in September 1986 was against Hector Guerrero, the same man he won his first major tag team championship alongside 7 years earlier in the CWA.
That symmetry provides a clean closing bracket to his time in the traditional territories. The subsequent move he makes reflects the changing economic gravity of the wrestling business at that exact moment in history.
Regal heads to the World Wrestling Federation.
Here we go.
On September 16, 1986, he debuts for the WWF, teaming with Terry Gibbs in a match against George the Animal Steele and the Junkyard Dog. Vince McMahon's promotion is in the throes of its massive national expansion, riding the wave of Hulkamania. Yet for a worker who has held gold in the AWA, PNW, CWA, and JCP, the WWF utilizes him in a starkly different capacity.
This shift in his presentation is directly tied to the corporate philosophy of the WWF at the time. The promotion was rapidly crystallizing its aesthetic around size.
The land of the giants.
Precisely. They were marketing the product as a clash of titans, heavily favoring wrestlers with exaggerated, heavily muscled physiques and towering heights.
Regal is listed at 6'1" and 220 pounds. In Don Owen's territory, or the AWA, that makes him a believable, agile champion. In the 1986 WWF, placed next to the top of their card, the visual contrast is severe.
Consequently, despite allowing him to retain the Mr. Electricity moniker, the WWF booked him strictly as enhancement talent.
A jobber.
Yes, he wasn't given promotional backing, character arcs, or competitive matches. His function was to take the pinfall and make the established stars look formidable on television tapings.
Transitioning from pinning the Road Warriors to serving as a mechanism to put over the Junkyard Dog requires a massive recalibration of ego.
This raises an important question about longevity and self-preservation in the wrestling industry. Regal's tenure in the WWF lasted less than a single month. His final appearance was a televised loss to Tito Santana and Pedro Morales, taped on October 29.
Walking away from the largest promotion in the world after just a few weeks is a rarity. The source notes that Regal consciously opted out. He cited the notoriously grueling nature of the WWF's national and international touring schedule. He chose to preserve his physical health and prioritize being home with his family.
Evaluating the landscape, the relentless travel demands, the physical accumulation of bumps, and the hard ceiling placed on his upward mobility due to the company's size bias, he executed a pragmatic exit. He recognized the diminishing returns of trading his health for a spot at the bottom of the card.
But he doesn't abandon the industry entirely. He finds a venue where he can operate on his own terms. In 1988, he surfaces in Chicago for the launch of a new, independent promotion, Windy City Pro Wrestling. Regal is crowned their inaugural heavyweight champion on April 3, 1988.
The independent scene that began fracturing in the late 80s provided a haven for experienced territory workers who wanted to control their own dates.
He doesn't just hold the WCPW title, he carries the promotion. He retains that championship for an astonishing 619 days. He is working main events against established names, transitioning out of the national spotlight, defending against Jim Brunzell and Ken Patera. He finally drops the belt in December 1989, but remains a sporadic presence in WCPW through 1995. He officially retires from in-ring competition in 1996.
Closing out his career by anchoring a startup promotion allowed him to dictate his own schedule and leverage his decades of ring psychology without the destructive demands of the national touring circuits.
The timeline of his life came to an end recently. Stephen Michael Regal passed away on July 30, 2025 at the age of 73. He had been dealing with heart issues, specifically aortic stenosis.
A notable aspect of his passing is the delay in its public acknowledgement. The news did not circulate until December of 2025. Maintaining that level of privacy regarding his death aligns with the quiet dignity he demonstrated when he chose to step away from the glare of the WWF 4 decades earlier.
So, what does this all mean for you listening today? Looking at Steve Regal's career offers a blueprint for navigating a highly volatile profession. He proved his utility in Memphis tag matches, Portland marathons, Japanese strong style, and AWA main events. He built a resume defined by adaptability.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the heroism in Regal's story is found in his boundaries. The prevailing narrative in highly competitive industries dictates that you must endure any indignity or physical cost to remain on the largest possible stage. Regal evaluated the WWF, recognized that the systemic biases and scheduling demands were detrimental to his well-being and his family, and he walked away. He refused to compromise his values for the sake of proximity to the spotlight.
He knew his value as a worker. He didn't need to break his body functioning as enhancement talent when he could go to Chicago, build a new promotion, and carry a championship for 619 days. He controlled his own exit.
Which leaves us with a compelling hypothetical regarding the era he operated in. We noted the WWF's strict adherence to the Land of the Giants aesthetic during their 1980s national expansion.
It dictated the entire presentation of the product.
Consider the alternative scenario. If the largest promotion in the world hadn't instituted such a rigid size bias during its most crucial growth period, how many workers like Mr. Electricity, technically proficient, proven territory draws would have been positioned at the top of the card? If agile 220-pound workers were given the main event platform on national television in 1986, rather than being utilized as enhancement talent, how fundamentally different would the modern stylistic evolution of professional wrestling look today?
An entire alternate timeline of wrestling history hinges on that single boardroom philosophy. It really makes you wonder. Thank you for joining us today for this exploration of Stephen Michael Regal's life and career. Keep digging, keep learning, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.